Desireé, do you believe that we are all antennas during the writing process and that everybody has access to the same source?
That is such a tantalizing question. I know so many authors, and when they talk to me, it's almost like they're revealing it. It's their secret. And they'll say things like, I felt like I was channeling somebody else's story. I felt like the universe was telling me this story. It just came to me. I was in a flow state and the creativity just came. So referring to it as an antenna and just knowing that different authors seem to be describing the same thing, but in different ways, really makes me wonder. I don't know what that is. I don't know if there really is some kind of zeitgeist force in the universe that feeds us story. I do know, though, that as humans, story, I think, is what makes us so different from all of the other animals. I'm pretty sure whales are telling stories and dolphins are too, not to take that away from them. But we learn by story. We used to sit around fires and explain how to hunt through storytelling. We use stories to feed our spiritual needs, to talk about gods and monsters and things in the world. We love stories. If you want to find that joy and that love of story, sit down with a couple of 4-year-olds. I have grandkids, and when they sit on my lap and they're like, Grammy, tell me a story. They just crave it. They want to hear it. And I think that feeds into our need to learn about the world, to understand through a different character's eyes, so that we can learn how to behave, how to act, what to do in this scenario. So whether it's a horror novel or suspense where you're running from the monster, having that feed through us and come as story, well, it's safer, for example, than running away from the monster, right? But we still have the ability to learn from that and to experience that. Or if we're being whisked away on, to your Greek island on some romantic adventure, we're living another life. And I think that desire and that need for us to live in stories as well as be storytellers is what ultimately makes us human.
Desireé, what do you love about the writing process?
I think when all of the things start to come together, when in my own manuscript, I've written this story and I'm doing some of the final passes, and I realize something that I wrote here at the end could be foreshadowed in the beginning, and I start this bouncing back and forth, adding just a little hint of something. I don't write mysteries, but in a way, mystery writers will do, I'm often told, something similar, because they need to kind of plot out this whole scenario, this whole whodunit, but then they need to put those clues, those little breadcrumbs along the way. So for me, kind of interspersing those little nuggets and adding an Easter egg here, or giving you some insights to somebody's personality, the way they say something that kind of doesn't make sense at the time, and then 5 chapters later, then you've got that callback. One of the things that I love about certain books, certain stories in general, movies, is when you're able to experience it differently the second time around reading it or watching it. I think we've all had those moments where there was a story and we devoured it and we just dug right in. We sat back and then we started watching it again, and all of a sudden we had those moments of, oh, I didn't realize, oh, that's how that happened. So for me as a writer, when I'm doing that in the story, those little moments, those flashes, that's just delicious to me.
How do you believe that the creative process works?
It works different for everyone. I could never tell somebody that you must sit down and write 2 hours a day in the morning the minute you woke up. They might not have morningness. By the way, morningness apparently is a genetic trait. I just found that out not too long ago. They might be that night owl and they want to write at night. They might need the stimulation of reading other books within their genre or watching movies that are within their genre. Well, a few things that I like to suggest to people with that creative process, especially if you get stuck or you're not sure where to go next, is read outside your genre. Or if you're already doing that, watch movies or TV shows outside your genre. Step outside of whatever box you're in that feels like this is where you're supposed to be to get your creative inspiration, and just do something different. Instead of taking that trip to that Greek island because you like things that are nice and warm and comfortable, maybe your trip should be to Alaska because that's not your comfort zone. But looking at things in a whole different way, kind of turning them on their heels a little bit, at least for me, I feel that is where the creative process can be stimulated.
Do you believe that the creative process is the same whether you are writing, painting, making music?
I think it's similar, and you can also draw from music. I listen to classical music when I write. I can't listen to anything that has vocals. That draws me out of it. But I do think that when you're a creator, when you're creative, that how you express that can be very different, but it does have this core inside of you. But at the same time, as much as I love classical music and I love music in general, I could not play a note to save my life. I just don't have that talent. So I do see folks that are able to express their creativity in different ways. Now, whether or not it's all kind of coming again from that zeitgeist in the sky that is giving us what we need to be storytellers, to be creatives, to kind of impart this onto the world, I think that's a different conversation. But I do think that, yeah, we all have something creative inside of us, and some of us have a little bit more, but exactly how we express it and how it comes to fruition can be very, very different.
And just as you said, maybe going someplace out of your comfort zone. If you're like the warm beach, go to someplace that's cold and snowing. Should someone also try that with the writing in terms of if they are a night owl, try getting up in the morning, or no, that different parts of the brain won't work?
You could try it, definitely. I mean, try whatever you think might work for you. Try exercising, taking a walk, taking a drive. I know folks who will drive out into the desert. And I used to think, well, why would you go out into the desert? I'm not a desert person. I like trees and green and moisture. Until one time I decided to go to Sedona, Arizona, and then I got it. So sometimes, just doing something different, deciding that you're going to taste something different or experience life different. One of the things you could do too is just crawl into the skin of one of your characters. What would your character do in this situation? Especially if you're having a hard time giving that person some motivations or struggling with their arc, where are they going? If you've written about a 75-year-old grandmother, what would her day be like? Would she walk in the park? Would she feed some pigeons? So being creative and experimental like that, I think it can't go wrong. Now, if you are a night owl and you're forcing yourself to get up every morning and write, and after a month it's not working, chances are it's just not going to work. So you might want to have your routines and do the things that make sense for you. But I'm all for experimenting and finding new ways to tap into that creative energy and just do what works for you.